All right, let's review some tactics. So I think the checkmate patterns actually use a lot of the tactics. So maybe better actually to do the tactics first, so you get an idea for what these are. Right, the pin is one of the most basic ones. Is like you can't make a move which puts your king in check. So the king being this far away from the knight, you basically just get the knight for free. Similarly here, there's no way to move the rook or the king to save the rook here. Those are absolute pins because they cannot actually be broken. This is a relative pin in that, like, you can move the rook, but you'd be losing your queen. So this is a pretty common theme. You're able to attack a piece with a pawn. Here there's a pin. So this knight is under attack, but this pawn can't move because of this relationship with the queen. So you're actually using the pin here, and this can't. This is not legal. This one, the pin here is actually, so we're if you look past this knight, right, we would be attacking the two rooks. Attack this rook twice. So if we can sort of force the knight to move through something like this. These pins against the king are strong, right? So you'll notice that this pawn protects that pawn, but not if it's pinned. So we can actually sweep in here and give mate. Rooks, the bishops are strong there. This one we can basically produce a pin, right? The queen guards here, but if we take here with check, the queen can't recapture, and the queen can't capture our queen because there's check being provided. So if we take here, then you'll notice now that the king is moved, there's a pin here. So this square is now available to the rook. Good, so that takes care of pins. Skewers, kind of the other way. You attack a more valuable piece with the least valuable one, with a lesser valued one. In this case, we win the exchange. This one we can basically do the same thing. Oh yeah, okay, so I started looking at this, but right, like that square is covered. But the king side being opened up like this leaves this rook unprotected. So what we can actually do is take here first, right? Remove the bishop from the diagonal, and then we can attack the queen, win the rook. This one is pretty simple. Skewer. And this one, it doesn't seem like this is possible because king just takes, but the problem is that once you get the king and queen separated like this, the queen is unguarded, so we can exploit the skewer. This one, so the rook is, of course, looking to jump in here, but the queen is under attack, so I think, and if we remove this pawn, we have a chance to promote this guy. So in that position, the king would be trapped in the back rank. Queen is undefended, so it's like, okay, if we could go here, that'd be a fork, perhaps. But I think what's happening is, like, we're basically infiltrating with the queen. There's potential ideas to sync up with the knight. And we're just winning the queen. This position I did a video on. It's really interesting because, like, the queen is basically like, you know, is almost trapped. There's nowhere to go. That's not doesn't relent to some either pin or some skewer. Cool, fork. Very typical knight fork. So if the king were here, this would be really juicy. So why don't we just make that happen? We'll win the queen too. That's a thing that sometimes happens out of, like, Sicilians. Rook fork. Yep. Commonly happens with pawns. Bishop fork. Rook is unguarded. This is interesting because, right, like, you threaten this rook, but the other threat is to come to this square and fork the king and the rook, and this rook can't guard via this square because the pawn guards. So it's like a double attack that leads to a fork. This one we get this mate if we get over here, and this threatens mate on f7. So I think the knight has to be taken, and yeah, the computer's just giving up the queen. Similar double attack tactic. So I want to say this. So what happens if he goes here? Rook back. We're winning something, like, because I think this check, if the king goes here, we get a rook forcing him back, and then we get this fork. If rook first, he comes forward. I don't see anything obvious, so I think it's this check first, and this check, and then we get this fork. This position I didn't understand at all, but basically, like, these knights coming in is a real threat, and you sort of have, like, enough things sort of holding the position. So like if you push the pawn, queen or rook takes is bad for white, right? Pawn takes is bad because now you've got the queen coming in. Actually, it just leads to mate, doesn't it? Because it can't. This escape square is covered. So it means like one of these is forced, like rook. Then we take with check. But after knight takes, queen takes, I think everything's fine. So maybe we need to look at this check. Because there's a pin. Then this forces takes. Takes. No. Queen takes. Oh. The follow-up. Of course, right? We're trying to win the queen. Let's see. I think this check looks appealing because it forces black to one of these squares where this check wins the rook. This one, there's a hint here. Can you make multiple threads with one move? So with this bishop on the diagonal, it's super strong with this pawn moved. So you can imagine if this rook weren't here, check here, king here, or sorry, king here, rook here would be mate. And also, if we could infiltrate this way with the queen there would be mate. Queen here just, the position just fizzles because queen takes. So I think you go here, you offer the queen. Here, the queen guards, so then we infiltrate this way, and this mate is basically, yeah, he's forced to give up the queen. I think this is a, because here just loses to this, so I think this first. I think this is similar. Good. Forks are done. Discovered attacks. I haven't done this one in a while. So yeah, you don't really want your queen on the same file as a rook, because there's all sorts of tricky tactics that can happen. Oh, and then this, of course, is the same position, but there's just a check. So the queen is not allowed to move. This is a double attack on the rooks. This one... The other thing is double check causes the king to move. And if you put the... So we're basically allowed this fork because this is not allowed because the king is still under check. Wait. Oh, checkmate. There is a checkmate available, so these escape squares are covered. not really seeing a mate. If this doesn't work, the problem is the square is guarded, so giving mate with a rook doesn't seem possible. So you start to look at take. Pretty sure it's some sort of knight move. The problem is if you give check here now, I don't think this leads to mate though. Because here queen takes, rook takes, king takes. Things are fine. Oh, I see. Okay. It's this move. Oh, that's clever. This is interesting. These pieces are unguarded. This attacks here, but if he just moves, similarly here. Oh, if we just take here and then maybe step up with a queen. Well, take here takes. Risk it for the biscuit. Well, now this. But why not bishop takes? So turn on the engine if here and well, knight or bishop takes, right? Well, no, this takes first. Oh. Oh, we're getting mated. That's what you have to see is you have king here, then yeah, we're just getting mated. Okay, I didn't see the mate. So that's why like you have to take this knight. It's just too dangerous. And then you get to take piece and the exchange you win. So the problem is that I can't move this rook. This piece is hanging, but this rook is causing problems. We have this check. So this check allows us to have a discover check here, or we can check and pick up this bishop. Forces the king to a bad square. So actually we can pick up like one of the rooks. Oh. Nope. Check here, and then do we need to give a double check? I'm not seeing the idea. Makes no sense. Oh, we need to attack this rook, because this rook can remove check. So, okay. We must... There's always another idea. Always another idea. So, we see this. But how do we get the king somewhere where it makes sense? King here. Rook here is a problem. Well, it's not right now. Does this threaten mate? Covered. So this threatens mate, actually, is what the deal is. Getting to this square. No. Gotta get to this square. We can still get to this square from either of these two squares, so I gotta go here. Otherwise, yeah, just rook takes. And yeah, now we just take the rook. Good one. So this is looking danger. Queen is under attack though. So this would threaten the royal fork. So could we give up the queen to land this fork? It's actually a threatening mate too. It's actually threatening mate. So this threatens mate via this. I don't think that makes sense. Here, take, check. Problem is, in these positions, the king can hide behind the pawn, so I don't know if that makes sense. I think queen takes, queen takes. Queen takes, push. What about just here? King takes, then we get a discovered check. King has to go back, and then we give mate. Yeah, I bet that's working. Rook blocks. Double check, king has to move, okay. Double check is important. This blocks, so double check, king has to move, then we give mate. Ooh! Clever one. Clever, clever. Clever, clever. So queen takes. Can we take the rook first? Queen takes, bishop takes, and then the rook just moves, right? This is the threat currently. Take, push. Take, push. Take. Seems okay. So I'm pretty sure it's something like this, where coming with check somehow. Okay, yeah, I think it's this actually, because then we can take here with check. So this forces queen takes. And then we take with check first. Then we have to take the queen back, do we not? This seems better, but maybe this is right. Discover check 5. So this draws me in. Takes, takes, queen, double check, king takes. Takes. Still down is the problem. If I could get on this diagonal somehow, maybe. So check, king here. Check, take. Promote here with check. Yep. Okay. Not always capture. Good one. Alright, I think that's discovered attacks. That's probably a long enough video. 30 minutes, 33 minutes. Alright, good times. We'll come back for the rest of those in the next one.